This is not a magical, mystical future prediction. So in the near term, within the next several years, the economic squeeze on ordinary Americans is going to do nothing but intensify. Their debt is going to grow faster than their incomes. Their essential costs are going to grow faster than their wages. Think about the ramifications of that. It's not just statistical data. Actually look at what's happening inside the country from now, what's happening now in the country, and then project forward. America is fragmenting. It's fragmenting, not just politically fragmenting. It's fragmenting geographically, it's fragmenting economically, socially. In every way that you can think of, they're fragmenting. It's becoming before our eyes what I would call an archipelago. America is becoming an archipelago, a collection of landlocked islands. There's going to be some zones in the country, like coastal corridors, tech clusters, metropolitan centers, and so forth, that are still going to be globally connected to one degree or another, still going to be economically dynamic, still be wealthy, administratively competent, and so forth. But then there are going to be vast stretches of the country that are something else entirely. Aging, depopulating, the infrastructurally stressed, completely dependent on federal transfer systems just to maintain basic function. And those transfers are going to dwindle. Those communities, those vast stretches of the country are dying. This is not conjecture. This is census data. 15 million Americans moved across the country in 2025. 15 million. 88% of those people who moved said that they were doing it to save money. They weren't doing it for opportunity. They weren't doing it for ambition. They were doing it to survive affordably, to be able to afford survival. That's a form of economic internal displacement. That's a form of domestic economic refugees. Americans are leaving their cities the way that people leave a country that is too impoverished and too war-torn to even be livable. Los Angeles is hemorrhaging residents. San Francisco, Boston, Chicago, Colorado. Their populations are voting with their feet against the cost and against the dysfunction of all the major urban centers that were supposed to be the wells of opportunity. That's where you were supposed to be moving to, because that's where the opportunity was supposed to be. And now people are fleeing those places. The country that once told itself that it was one single unified national economy, one shared prosperity, is measurably, observably becoming two or three or more. You've got certain zones of intense capital concentration, and then you have zones of managed decline. And then you have a vast middle territory that has nowhere to go. Okay, that's what an archipelago looks like from the inside. The islands don't even know that they're becoming separate, but they're becoming separate. So they still have a national popular culture. They still participate in the same electoral theater every 4 years, but the actual material realities of daily life, housing costs, employment, security, institutional functionality, basic social trust, these are diverging faster than at any point in modern American history. And there's no indication whatsoever that this process is going to slow down. No, it's only going to intensify. I mean, I can tell you what the sequence looks like, because, like I say, this is not random. This is a pattern. And the pattern has logic to it. Like I said, this doesn't even count as a prediction. It's literally just an equation. It's literally just gravity. If you just pull the threads together, it begins with a loss of confidence in institutions. That's already happened. As I say, that's already happened. Trust in the federal government is now at an all-time low. And like I said, I'm not saying you should trust them. You never should have trusted the government. It's never been trustworthy. Not now, not 70 years ago. But the point is, as long as that trust was there, the fraud could continue. The fraud could go on. But now 62% of likely voters said that they suspect that cheating will determine the outcome of presidential elections in the future. Okay? And that skepticism crosses party lines. That means that no matter who wins an American election now, from now on, the majority of the losing side will believe that the result was illegitimate, which means that every election from here forward is going to produce a population that does not accept the authority of whoever won. Okay? Then there's the loss of confidence in the media. Already done. That's already done. The loss of confidence in the economy. We covered the household debt situation, the cost of living situation, the 25% surge in essential prices against stagnant wages situation. Okay, so that's already done. The loss of confidence in public order. I mean, just walk through any American city, any major American city. That's already done. That's already there. And then the final layer is the loss of confidence in the very idea of national cohesion itself. That it's all one country, that it's one shared project, one team America, one coherent people with a common future, okay? That last layer is arriving now, right now. You can see it in the migration patterns. You can see it in the regional divergence. You can see it in the political language that is now routinely including the phrase national divorce, talking about secession. Okay, this is the sequence, and it's playing out in real time right now. The exhaustion phase that you are already in, because I know you're exhausted. I know you're exhausted. Well, that exhaustion is only going to deepen. The affordability crisis is going to get worse. Housing, insurance, healthcare, food, and so forth, all of these things, they're going to become even less accessible. The structural forces producing that inaccessibility, the financialization of housing, the extraction model of healthcare, the debt architecture that replaces wage growth, because that's what it is. You need to understand that's why it's happening. That's what is happening, and that's why it's happening. Because why would wages go up? Why should they? You understand? Why should wages keep pace with the cost of living when you can just get people to supplement their income by sinking themselves into debt? No, none of these structural reasons are going to be dismantled, not at all. So people on the bottom are simply going to have to adjust their expectations downwards, and that's what they'll do. It means more Americans are going to move back in with their family, with their parents. More are going to work second jobs and third jobs. More are going to homeschool because they don't feel like they can trust the public schools anymore. They're going to join mutual aid networks because they can't trust the state anymore. There's something like 3.4 million homeschool students in the United States. That's 6% of all school-age children, and it's up from 2.5 million in 2019. Mutual aid groups surged from about 50 to 800 during COVID and continued throughout 2025 in response to government shutdowns and social collapse. This is a sign of a population that has quietly already concluded that the state is no longer reliable, and they're right. It means that people are starting to stop expecting restoration, and that's right. Again, that's correct. You shouldn't expect restoration. But until now, I think that it is not consciously acknowledged. I think that the ramifications are not consciously acknowledged because people still believe that despite everything, Americans share some basic common ground. They don't. Not anymore. They haven't for a while. That's what I said. There is no Team America. You have a country where people in different class positions, different geographies, different media ecosystems are genuinely not living in the same country in any meaningful experiential sense. You understand me? A tech professional in Austin, a retired auto worker in Ohio, an undocumented agricultural worker in California, a Muslim family in Dearborn, they are not inhabiting the same social reality. They're not consuming the same information. They're not subject to the same institutional treatment. They are not experiencing the same economy. You understand me? The fiction of a shared national reality is exactly that. It's a fiction, and it's wearing thin. There's already talk about what they're calling soft secession. Not formal, not legal, but behavioral. We're talking about people eventually organizing their decisions, organizing their lives around governance preferences. You understand? Moving from places to place. Choosing to live based on what state government or municipal government they can tolerate. Not because that's where the jobs are. And we're talking about building private parallel systems, security systems, private schooling, cash economies, informal contracting, local dispute resolution, and so forth. Communities that function as semi-autonomous units within the nominal shell of a nation state that nobody fully trusts anymore. The number of students in America who are accessing their education savings account, which is a mechanism that lets families redirect their public education funds towards private and homeschool options, you understand, that skyrocketed from 40,000 in 2022 to nearly 500,000 in 2025. People literally redirecting the money that the state allocates for their children away from state institutions. They are circumventing the state while living inside the state. That's soft secession. That's a civilizational unraveling in slow motion. You're going to have about 5 kinds of people, 5 types of people, segments of people, as all of this unfolds. They're going to be the adapters, and that's the majority. They'll just try to adjust. They'll cut their expenses. They'll relocate. They'll lower their expectations. They'll build backup plans. They're just surviving, adapting, like I say, to the new normal. Then you'll have the nostalgists. They still think that one election, one charismatic leader, one political revival, one return to the old values and so forth will restore everything that's been lost. Those are the real junkies, the real indoctrinated addicts of American mythology. And they're going to be politically active but completely delusional. You've got those on the right and on the left. Then another category is going to be the radicals, what you can call the radicals. And they're actually surprisingly similar to the nostalgists. They correctly diagnose that the system is illegitimate. So they're sometimes right about the diagnosis, but they're always wrong about what follows. Because anger is not analysis and outrage is not a cure. And that's all they've really got. And they're also mostly following this or that dogma, like communism or libertarianism or anarchism or what have you. And they also think, the same as the nostalgists, that if they just get the right leader, if they just get enough mobilization, then you can actually turn around a sinking ship. And then, most importantly, I think, you'll have the archipelago builders. These are the most realistic people. They will have identified that building parallel community power structures is the only way to go, because it is. You know, community farms, faith schools, mutual aid networks, cooperative housing, digital ecosystem, income ecosystems, local business ecosystems, semi-parallel civic life. They're not waiting for a national restoration or what have you. They're not waiting for a revival. They're building viable islands inside of the wider breakdown, the wider collapse. And from a long-range historical perspective, I think that those people are going to matter the most, far more than any of the loud voices of the nostalgists or the radicals. And then there's what I would call the civilizational defectors. And these are the people who have the greatest insight. These are the people across every racial, every ethnic, every class, every geographic category. These are the people who have concluded correctly that the West's self-description has always been a lie. That the framework is not just politically biased, but morally fraudulent. That the whole language of universal rights, the whole language of democratic legitimacy, free markets, liberal progress, and so forth, has always and primarily only ever been camouflage for amoral power. These people are not looking for a restoration or a revival, not whatsoever. They're looking for a different civilizational framework entirely. They're looking for a different moral vocabulary. They're looking for a different relationship between authority and truth. They're looking for a different model for the human being and for the human being's obligations to community, to family, to God, and to history. But this is what you can expect: near term, mid-term, long-term erosion, slow motion, collapse, degrading conditions, degrading quality of life, and escalating cost of living. Basically what you see right now, but intensified and continued. Pockets of wealth and privilege in a sea of scarcity, lack of services, deterioration, insecurity, crime, sickness, and strife. The overwhelming majority of the population will have no useful way whatsoever to navigate what's coming. Their families are broken. Their morals are broken. Their intellects are broken. Their thinking skills are broken. Their finances are broken. Their communities are broken. They are broken. You understand me? I'm talking to my people now. I'm talking to my Muslim people now. My brothers and sisters, please understand me. Don't let yourself be fooled by that country. We have been a civilization for over 1,400 years. And even when we were a young nation, a smaller nation, we didn't let ourselves get fooled by the Roman Empire. We didn't let ourselves get fooled by the Persian Empire. We didn't let ourselves get fooled by the Crusaders. We didn't let ourselves get fooled by the Mongols. So don't let yourselves be fooled now by America. No, America has only been a major global power literally within generations that are currently living on this earth. Do you understand me? Do you understand how short that is? We're talking about inside my mother's lifetime. Inside my mother's lifetime, my father's lifetime, my lifetime, and your lifetime. That's not impressive. That's not proof of anything. No, you have to show me your global stature. You have to show me your global influence for at least 500 consecutive years, not 50. America just got here, historically speaking. And it's already on the way out. Shortest empire in history, like I said. It's the shortest, but it's the most violent, the most brutal, the most savage, the most ruthless, and the most destructive empire in history. It's so destructive that it's self-destructive. And alhamdulillah for that. They're leading their own people into obsolescence. You understand? They gave birth to a class of elites who are committing patricide against themselves. They made a class of wealthy extractors and pillagers who are now extracting and pillaging the country that made them in the first place. And they rule by confusion, by delusion, deception, and division. Their model relies upon making their population ignorant, making their population unskilled, dysfunctional, sick, and lazy. That's the truth. They don't want a capable population. They don't want a moral population. They don't want an intelligent population. They don't want a disciplined population. That's the last thing that they want. What kind of a system is that? Okay, I could tell you what kind of a system. I can tell you all sorts of things about what sort of a system that is. But the main thing that you need to know is that it is a short-term system. That's not a system that can survive. That's not a sustainable system. It's a crash and grab system. It's a short-term con game. It's a quick fraud. It's a take the money and run cheat. You know, your President Lincoln, he saw what it was when he said that you can fool some of the people all of the time and all of the people some of the time, but you cannot fool all of the people all of the time, meaning the jig is going to be up sooner or later, and we're living at that time right now. The jig is up. The rug is being pulled, and the main contribution that America will have made to humanity when this is all said and done, America is ultimately going to be remembered as a cautionary tale of what happens to a state that has nothing but contempt for humanity. It's going to be the ultimate cautionary tale of what goes up must come down. The ultimate cautionary tale of what goes around comes around. The ultimate cautionary tale of the harder they come, the harder they fall. And you reap what you sow. So again, to my people, to the Muslims, if you're in our lands, if you are in your own Muslim lands and you get yourself a visa to go to the United States, brother, listen to me, all you did is buy a ticket to the Titanic. And if you're over there right now, if you're stuck over there right now, and some of you, subhanAllah, I'm telling you, the secondhand embarrassment that the global ummah feels when we hear you talk sometimes is painful. Because some of you, some of our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, in the West, in America, subhanAllah, some of you are that 1 person out of 5 who actually believes in the mirage, who actually believes in the so-called American dream. Some of you are going to be the last people in that country who believe in it. You're walking around on the deck of the Titanic bragging about being there and talking about what a great ship it is, and you're doing all of that after it already hit the iceberg. You understand me? You're like someone who just got to the amusement park after all the rides stopped running. You're walking around with your cotton candy taking selfies while everybody's leaving the park. Sometimes I think that American exceptionalist rhetoric is going to die out completely, and you all are going to be the last ones still talking about it, still talking like that. Diaspora Muslims, some of you, have become amplifiers of American propaganda. Yes, you have. American deception. Yes, you have. Some of you are the carriers and conveyors of American mythology. After everybody else has already accepted reality, I said Fir'aun has left the palace. You understand? Fir'aun has left the palace and he's already drowned in the sea, and you're still up there in that palace thinking that it's the place to be. No, it's time to come home. I'm telling you, it's time to come home. And I mean mentally. I'm not saying that you have to physically leave, but mentally, psychologically. You don't have to get out of America, but you have to get America out of you. Yes, and until you get America out of you, until you get America out of your mind, until you get America out of your psyche, until you get America out of your thinking, I'm telling you, nobody in the Muslim world needs to hear you talk about the affairs and the matters in the Muslim lands, because you don't know what you're talking about. The only useful and constructive role that you can have over there is to align yourselves with what I call the archipelago builders, and align yourselves with the people who are looking for alternative civilizational models, and you try to organize with them on the community level. That's what you should focus on, because yes, as I said at the beginning, you're in that part of the movie right before the disaster strikes. And if you're a Muslim, you ought to see it. If you're a Muslim, you ought to recognize what those dark clouds on the horizon mean and what they are carrying for that country. You don't have time for nonsense. You don't have time for foolishness. You don't have time to numb yourself with the anesthetic of American culture. Because it only is that way, that American culture only is that way precisely so it can paralyze you and tranquilize you. And as a Muslim, you ought to bear witness to what that country is. You ought to bear witness to what that country has done. You ought to bear witness to what that country has been. And you ought to bear witness about what is coming to that country.